Former Mayor Sheila Dixon once again challenging Brandon Scott to lead Baltimore. Our team is looking into the crime rate under her tenure compared to now.
Things were better under Sheila Dixon. That's a given fact.
Plus, her calls for an investigation against a city agency she helped create. A community mourning demands answers on failures surrounding July's mass shooting. We have their pleas for change. Your state superintendent wrapped up in controversy and fighting for his job.
Government leaders don't just get to act independent of oversight.
Fox 45 News Project Baltimore talks to an expert on concerns over text messages kept hidden from you and the potential violation of state law.
Threats of severe storms have us in a weather alert for tomorrow. I'm timing it all out hour by hour so you can stay prepared.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 10.
Good evening, I'm Kai Jackson. Former Mayor Sheila Dixon tells Fox 45 Morning News she's running for mayor again. Dixon says crime, juvenile crime, water bills, and much more are a problem in the city, and she tells us she has a plan to fix them.
Juveniles have to be accountable. I'm not saying that we lock up everybody. That's not what I'm saying. But we've got the resources. Where's the disconnect? If that person is on a monitor, why isn't someone following that individual?
Dixon says she'll use her previous experience as mayor to help control Baltimore's crime crisis. We'll take a closer look at her crime plan and how it compares to Mayor Brandon Scott's coming up at 10:30. First, Dixon is calling for an investigation into the Safe Streets program. She started the program when she was mayor, but she says it needs accountability and oversight. Fox 45's Mackenzie Frost pressed Dixon about her comments.
By telling you when we put out the strategy, as we just talked about before, you're not going to get a different answer. We have a process. We're sticking to it. Watch your back. Don't walk into the truck.
If you have a process, why was it leaked to WBAL?
See you later.
Next question. Anybody else?
I have one more.
Thank you, everybody.
We want you to join the conversation. For city residents, if the election were held today, who would you vote for mayor of Baltimore? Mayor Scott or Sheila Dixon? So far, 99% of those who voted say Sheila Dixon. You can go to foxbaltimore.com/vote to weigh in. We'll check back in on the results at 10:30. Mayor Scott and other city leaders are in Brooklyn tonight. Their first visit since the mass shooting happened and the after-action report was released last week. Our team coverage begins with Keith Daniels, who was at tonight's meeting. He joins us live after talking with residents, some of them shaken by that shooting. Keith?
Well, Kai, this meeting began with each city agency outlined in that after-action report presenting their findings to residents. Now, that took nearly an hour before the question-answer session, and tonight, no cameras allowed. Danielle Thomas was one of the first residents to arrive at Baybrook Elementary Middle School for the community meeting with Mayor Brandon Scott and Acting Police Commissioner Richard Worley.
But I was like, there's no way that all this is happening in my community.
Thomas was shaken from her bed the night of the mass shooting at Brooklyn Homes with a frantic phone call from her mother.
They're going crazy out there in your area. There's been people got shot. Some people died. She was like, are you okay?
On this Thursday night, the mayor and Worley at the meeting with Brooklyn home residents in the community, they say, directly affected by the shooting. City officials addressing residents' concerns and comments.
I'm saddened because could this have possibly been avoided? We had 28 young people injured, and we don't know to what capacity, but they'll certainly be traumatized no matter what physical capacity it's at. And we had 2 young people die.
At this gathering, the mayor's office only allowing cameras inside before the meeting. Once it started, no TV cameras inside, providing privacy and comfort for residents, they say. Only reporters allowed to take notes. Among one of the first residents at the mic, Larnell Robinson, concerned about the investigation, notably about no arrest so far, directly connected to the 2 people killed in the shooting.
I heard on TV a lot that they caught this person, that person. But is that the people who did it? Because then if you're not got nobody directed to the killing, they out there still killing.
Meantime, the mayor vowing accountability.
We know we have accountability with folks that were participating in violence. We've arrested them and turned them over to other parts of the justice system.
Still, for residents like Thomas, shaken by a deadly shooting that she believes possibly could have been avoided.
They did drop the ball, but I'm glad that they're here to pick it up.
Well, there were other residents here with other concerns, but the mayor made it very clear tonight that his focus, his priority, was on the Brooklyn residents. We're live tonight. Keith Daniels, Fox 45 News.
When the after-action report was released last week, the acting commissioner admitted the department made mistakes. Rich Worley says leadership didn't know about the party until the day of. The mayor blamed officers who responded to the block party and the Southern District Command. Critics say there were signs leadership missed, too. Fox 45 News has found multiple social media videos showing the Brooklyn Day block party always happened on or around July 4th. Some of those videos show people with guns and drugs at past parties. There were also advertisements about the party on social media. During the last city council hearing on the shooting, Councilwoman Felicia Porter showed one of the advertisements on her phone.
I just pulled up Brooklyn Day on my Instagram right now. We have an entire unit associated with this, and they didn't pick that up.
The police department's after-action report details the city's deployment plan for last year's block party. Then the city warned officers about the party's connection to drug dealers and illegal guns. City officials said the party was financially supported by individuals living in the community who have historical connections to the sale of controlled dangerous substances. Fox 45 News confirmed an accused drug dealer drove a U-Haul to this year's Brooklyn homes and unloaded party supplies for this year's event. There was no deployment plan for this year's party. Fox 45 News sent questions to the mayor's office today, asking has Mayor Scott or anyone else in the Scott administration instructed the Baltimore Police Department not to be present at community events. Did Mayor Scott or anyone else in the Scott administration instruct the Baltimore Police Department not to be present at July's Brooklyn Day event? We asked for a response by tomorrow evening. So far, we have not heard back. The Brooklyn Day investigation brings more questions about juvenile crime in Baltimore. 2 of the suspects were wearing ankle monitors and being supervised by the Department of Juvenile Services. The Department of Juvenile Services is under more scrutiny. This time, it centers around a threatening video which appears to have surfaced from behind the walls of a juvenile lockup. Jeff Abel is live tonight with the video and the concern it's raising. Jeff?
Well, DJS has launched an investigation into this video called Free Baby Threat. It is laced with obscenities, but the message is crystal clear.
On the front lines, officers have long faced rejection from witnesses who know something but say nothing.
We ain't snitching. Nobody's snitching here.
And now we're learning the depths of the no snitching culture. This video surfaced on social media this week.
Go ahead, talk, baby.
The video features an incarcerated teenager making a bold statement to a social media poster in a video call believed to be from a state lockup.
Hey, yo, they scared. Hey, yo, he's scared to do what, though, yo?
The call from inside a facility is believed to have originated from a caseworker's cell phone.
Because it's clear to us now that even when they are incarcerated, they still pose a public safety hazard on the community.
In a statement released today, the Department of Juvenile Services wrote that it just became aware of the video. And while we can't comment on individual cases because of state confidentiality laws, we can say that our Office of the Inspector General is conducting an investigation. For more than 20 years, lawmakers have attempted to stop the threats and intimidation which first quieted potential witnesses in adult court.
If we do not have witness and victim stepping up, we will not solve the crime. We will not hold individual accountable. And if they're doing that in the adult system, do you not think they're going to do it in the juvenile system?
Hey, yo, they scared. Hey, yo, he's scared to do what, though, yo?
Now comes evidence that juveniles may have found their voice, even behind the walls of juvenile jail.
Rest assured that he is not the only one.
At that community meeting in South Baltimore tonight, the police commissioner was asked what role, if any, Stop Snitching has had on the Brooklyn Homes investigation. He replied, none at all. We're live tonight. Jeff Abel, Fox 45 News.
Jeff, thank you. City State's Attorney Ivan Bates weighs in on the state's juvenile justice laws. He tells Fox 45 News he's had conversations with House Speaker Adrian Jones and Senate President Bill Ferguson about changing those laws. Fox 45's Mackenzie Frost sat down with Bates about what he wants to see from lawmakers.
I think everybody recognizes that we need to do something, that everybody's going to realize all hands on deck, and we're going to work collaboratively together to make sure we can resolve this.
Have they made any commitments to you about potential changes, specific changes that might come up during the session in January?
They haven't made any commitments, but you know, one of the things I do recognize is that they want to hear from everybody. They want to see all sides, and from there, I think with us, it'll be incumbent upon the prosecutors to make sure that we are able to articulate the issues and concerns that we have. And so even though they've made the commitment to make sure they look at this and do what they can. If we don't do something to hold these young people accountable, they will continue to run and almost have lawlessness in our cities. And we can't have that.
The City Council will hold a second hearing on the Brooklyn Day mass shooting this Wednesday. It's the same day state lawmakers will meet in Annapolis to discuss juvenile crime. That's not a special session, and lawmakers can't create any new laws or change existing ones.
All right, we remain under weather alert. Rather ugly afternoon here in Baltimore today, especially north and west of the city. Notice Norrisville getting some tree damage there, not too far from Westminster. Also some tree damage in all these circles with the little white balls in them. That is all hail reports. And we had some pretty large hail that came down up to $half size in spots. There's still a little bit of rain south and southeast, but I'm not expecting a whole lot overnight. When you wake up, it's warm and muggy, 77. We're back at it with more strong storms potentially after about 5, 6 o'clock tomorrow afternoon, tomorrow evening. We do have a slight risk of severe weather, and we're under weather alert once again. I'm going to break everything down hour by hour in my Weather Authority forecast.
Coming up on Fox 45 News at 10 o'clock tonight, a new scam is popping up in the Baltimore region trying to get your money. What you need to know to protect yourself in tonight's Maryland's Most Wanted. Baltimore City is being ordered to show you the names of the people who donated to the Mosby Legal Defense Fund. We'll take a closer look at the legal battle brewing right now. And we're getting a look at text messages from the state school superintendent that he didn't want you to see. Project Baltimore looks into the law he may have broken right after the break. A Project Baltimore investigation finds Maryland superintendent of schools was using an encrypted messaging app to conduct state business. As Chris Papps explains, many of those messages were set to auto-delete. That raises serious questions over transparency and whether the superintendent violated open records laws.
These messages were sent between Maryland Superintendent Mohammed Chaudhry and high-ranking employees within the Maryland State Department of Education. Each one a conversation about work, everything from teacher assignments and state grants to government contracts, and each one sent through Signal.
It matters because government accountability matters, right? That is the core of this country.
Tina Williams-Caroma, founder and CEO of T-Secure, a Baltimore cybersecurity company.
There's a big concern around privacy.
Signal is an encrypted messaging app which allows users to set a timer to automatically delete messages. It's marketed as having privacy at its core. But when apps like Signal are used for government business, privacy comes at a cost.
There needs to be appropriate government oversight.
Mr. Superintendent, have you ever used the Signal application in commission of your job?
I have no comment. Thank you much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
For my job?
Well,
Project Baltimore obtained these screenshots of multiple Signal messages sent between late 2021 and 2022. They were sent by Mohammed Chaudhry to at least one high-level employee at the Maryland State Department of Education. We are concealing their name. But when we questioned Chaudhry about it at a recent state board meeting, he told us he never used Signal for work.
you've never used Signal for your job?
No.
Thank you.
On August 3rd, Project Baltimore filed a public records request for Signal app data on the cell phone of Mohammed Chaudhry. MSDE replied, "There are no documents or records responsive to your request." That's probably because the Signal app is not on his state-issued phone. This is his personal phone number. And in most cases, the public does not have a right to see what the superintendent is doing on his personal cell phone.
Does it concern you that the highest ranking public education official in the state is using Signal to conduct state business?
Yeah, I think it's concerning to me that some of the information and records may not be accessible and discoverable.
Even if the superintendent were using Signal on his state-issued cell phone, the messages are encrypted, meaning only the people involved in the conversation can read them. And if those messages are set to disappear, they can't be accessed under open records law. Parents and taxpayers cannot see what is being said by their state superintendent about public schools.
Communication or means that makes those records potentially inaccessible.
In a statement this week, Chaudhry told FOX45 he used a Signal app to communicate personal messages with one senior member of his team whom he says was directed not to send work-related matters through Signal. But Project Baltimore obtained screenshots that show Chaudhry was regularly communicating with multiple MSDE employees in Signal group chats. There are state laws regarding record retention, and using apps like Signal could lead to potential violations.
Yes.
Which is why Williams-Caroma says government organizations need clear policies on how employees communicate about taxpayer business.
I think it's incumbent upon the organization to outline what is acceptable and what's not. Leaders don't just get to act independent of oversight, like the public are the watchers of the watchers.
Project Baltimore reached out to Governor Wes Moore and other lawmakers, asking if they have concerns over Chaudhry's leadership amid our recent reporting that certainly raises serious questions about transparency. We're still waiting to hear back, but keep in mind, Chaudhry is fighting for his job. The State Board of Education is set to vote by the end of this month on whether to offer him a new contract. And we will be staying on this story. I'm Chris Papps, and this is Project Baltimore.
Fox 45 News is taking the pulse of the people. Do you think State Superintendent Mohammed Chaudhry should get a new contract? So far, 93% of those who voted say no. Head to foxbaltimore.com/vote and click on the Pulse tab to weigh in. Coming up, the manhunt for an escaped killer intensifies. How Pennsylvania police are narrowing their search.
Scammers are pretending to be federal agents, even targeting members of the U.S. Marshal Service. I'm Alexa Ashwell with Maryland's Most Wanted, coming up.
And a brand new computer model run just coming in with our weather alert day in effect for tomorrow. Let's go ahead and take a look. Overnight tonight, I think things dry out, but by tomorrow later now, it looks like after about, say, 6 o'clock, that's when the storms begin getting together. Look at that nasty line approaching the city by about 10:30. I'm going to let you know how that can impact your state fair plans and also how much lasts into the weekend. That's coming up in my Weather Authority forecast.
As we head to break, this is a live look at the Inner Harbor. Taking a look at the Fox box on the top left, police report a sighting of a convicted murderer who broke out of a Pennsylvania prison last week. Police say they're searching an area of 8 to 10 square miles, which they believe he's still in that area. Top right, police in Washington, D.C. are looking for an escaped inmate. He's facing murder charges. Authorities say he was taken to the hospital for foot pain. Police say he assaulted an officer and escaped. Police say he's dangerous. On the bottom left, the Fulton County DA wants certain protections in place for the jury that will hear the case against former President Donald Trump and 18 others. The DA wants to make sure their personal information doesn't become public. Legal experts say it's standard practice for the names of grand jurors to be released. On the bottom right, a former executive for failed cryptocurrency platform FTX pled guilty to 2 criminal counts in New York. He could also be called as a witness to testify in the trial of FTX founder Sam Bankman-Fried. Coming up, former Mayor Sheila Dixon is running for mayor again. How her proposed crime strategy compares to Brandon Scott's. And a state panel says the public has a right to see who donated to the Mosby's Legal Defense Fund. How Baltimore city officials are responding. We're following three big stories at 10:30. The BGE legal saga in Baltimore County. Why a man in Kearney says he's been pushing back on the company's demands for years. A list of donors to the Mosby Legal Defense Fund is expected to be released soon. How Baltimore city officials may have violated state law with the original list. And the 2024 Baltimore mayoral race begins to take shape as former Mayor Sheila Dixon announces she's running again.
So I stand here today as I tell you that I'm running. The key things to keep in mind is action, accountability, and excellence are what the people of Baltimore deserve in a mayor. And I know that I can deliver that.
Dixon says bringing down crime will be a cornerstone of her campaign. So how does her crime strategy while she was in office compare to Mayor Brandon Scott's? Fox 45's Rebecca Pryor looks into the numbers.
Hello, everybody.
When asked why you should vote for him, Mayor Brandon Scott.
Homicides are down 20%. Shootings are down 10%. That is not the case for many major cities.
Pointing to a recent decline in crime. But when comparing his crime numbers to his new opponent, former Mayor Sheila Dixon.
As far as crime over their tenure as mayor, you would definitely have to say that things were better under Sheila Dixon. That's a given fact.
Under Mayor Scott's watch, homicides among the highest seen in the city's history.
The number one thing voters are going to look at when it comes to the crime rate, it's going to be murders.
Despite running on a campaign promise to fall below 300 murders his first year in office.
Getting us below 300 homicides in my first year.
In his first year, the city saw 338 homicides and 335 the next year.
I think that part of it is they don't fear the consequences or don't care about the consequences. Sheila Dixon inspires more fear than Brandon Scott does.
The year before Dixon took office, Baltimore recording 282 homicides. After taking office, that number falling to just 234 in her first year and 240 the next, a 17% drop in homicides in her first 365 days. But according to political analyst John Dede,
there's a lot of things in Sheila Dixon's past with ethical issues.
That progress potentially overshadowed by her own crime.
They're like, she did a good job, but. And the but is the big problem.
Dixon's term ultimately cut short after being convicted of embezzling donated gift cards, a mistake Dixon says she's learned from and is ready to make right.
People will just have to, see the results. A lot of times it's not a matter of saying it, it's a matter of your actions behind it.
Rebecca Pryor, Fox 45 News.
Well, as Rebecca mentioned, the mayor points to his crime-fighting strategy as the reason homicides and non-fatal shootings are down this year. U.S. Attorney for Maryland Eric Barron says his new partnership with City State's Attorney Ivan Bates has contributed to the decline in crime.
We think it's clear, and the data demonstrates that it's because we're working as a team. We're working collaboratively. We're being more focused about following the money on those who commit violent acts in our communities. Many of those violent acts are driven by money, whether it be illegal drugs or drug trafficking. And so we're really focused on better following the money as an additional means of taking violent criminals out of our communities.
Fox 45 News sent a question to the mayor's office today asking, given some of the reduction of violent crime since the state's attorney and Eric Barron took office, what steps has the Scott administration taken to reduce violent crime? We asked for a response by tomorrow evening. So far, we have not heard back. If Sheila Dixon is elected mayor, she'll be stepping into a very different job than the one she had 13 years ago. This morning, we talked with the taxpayer advocate about the changes to the role in the budget since 2010.
When she was mayor, there was an inspector general, don't get me wrong, but it was really tied to the mayor. Now you have Isabel Cumming, you have an advisory board that is independent, and I think that's going to put a lot more pressure on this transparency and on good governance. But really the new challenge is, Megan, is the fiscal issues. You have a lot more money being spent. $4.1 billion is Baltimore's budget. Back in 2010, it was $2.2 billion. I mean, that's a huge increase. So that's more responsibility that she's going to have if she becomes mayor.
Williams also says if elected, Dixon will take over several programs funded by ARPA money. He believes that could lead to a situation where she could be faced with bills that need to be paid without enough funding to pay them. And we want to ask you, in a head-to-head mayoral election, who would you vote for? Brandon Scott or Sheila Dixon? We'll continue to update our numbers. Community leader Bob Wallace is also exploring another run for mayor. Wallace ran as an independent 3 years ago, earning about 20% of the vote. This time, he says he'll do things differently in the mostly Democratic city.
I think running as an independent, I think there were situations where people could not hear my message. And I felt that it was important to remove all the barriers so that the voters of Baltimore could hear my ideas and could hear the vision that I have for the city.
Well, Fox 45 News will be closely following the mayoral race as it develops. For complete coverage, head to our website, foxbaltimore.com. The Maryland Compliance Board is ordering Baltimore City's Board of Ethics to release the names of those who donated to the legal fund of City Council President Nick Mosby and his ex-wife, former City State's Attorney Marilyn Mosby. The fund has been a source of controversy, and tonight, Maxine Stryker is taking a closer look at the order and the city's response.
It was Fox 45 who first confirmed the existence of the Mosby Legal Defense Fund in July 2021. The fund was launched to offset legal costs for the city's former power couple, Nick and Marilyn Mosby, who have since announced divorce. Months after the fund's creation, Marilyn Mosby, the city's former state's attorney, was federally indicted on charges of perjury and making a false statement on a loan application. Ever since, we've been questioning the transparency of the defense fund and just who's been donating.
Just one question about the need for a legal defense fund.
Will you disclose the donors to your legal defense fund?
Our questions were dodged time and time again, but now it seems those donors will finally come to light. The Maryland Public Information Act Compliance Board is ordering the Baltimore City Board of Ethics to release the list of those who donated. The Compliance Board finding the Board of Ethics violated the state's Public Information Act by redacting the names of more than 100 donors when it released the list to two separate news outlets. The Ethics Board argued the names included financial information and would not shed any light on the activities or workings of the board. But according to the Compliance Board, campaign finance activity is not ordinarily protected financial information. In their decision, they say the donations are relevant to understanding who might be seeking to curry favor with powerful elected officials. City Council President Nick Mosby was not charged in the federal investigation, but did fail to disclose donations to the Legal Defense Fund on his ethics disclosure forms last year. The Ethics Board finding he violated the city's rules and ordered him to shut it down and identify the donors. When Fox 45 requested that list in March, we received 8 pages of donations totaling less than $15,000, and the donors' names were redacted.
There should have been no back and forth. There should have been no reviewing this. This is information that should have been published at the very beginning of this process.
David Williams with the Taxpayers Protection Alliance says this years-long saga has only further eroded trust and transparency within city government.
People need to have all this information at their fingertips, and especially when you have people that are under investigation, it is critical that everyone sees who's donating to a fund and just to have all this information available.
Maxine Stryker, Fox 45 News.
We reached out to City Solicitor Ebony Thompson regarding the city's next steps. She told the Baltimore Sun they plan to appeal the ruling in circuit court. Meanwhile, Marilyn Mosby is expected to be in court for a pretrial status conference in her federal case against her tomorrow. That will include a hearing on her team's request to move the case out of Baltimore. Fox 45 News will have complete coverage on air and online. As the ongoing legal saga surrounding BGE's external gas regulators continues, in Baltimore County, a man says he's been fighting them for years. Al Corpez shared these photos of where his BGE gas meter used to be, just inside his garage and a few feet off the ground. BGE forced him to move the regulator outside, threatening to turn off his service if he didn't. Corpez ultimately made the move, but not before filing a complaint with the Public Service Commission.
BG&E sent a letter stating that they wanted gas meters moved from inside the garages due to a safety hazard and wanted them relocated outside. You have a greater chance of damaging the regulator and the gas meter being exposed outside than you do in the garage.
Well, BGE says it relocated thousands of garage gas meters in recent years after a customer accidentally struck their meter, leading to an explosion at a Columbia home. Still ahead, a scam impacting residents, businesses, even federal agents. The efforts to track down those responsible in Maryland's Most Wanted.
And the heat is beginning to ebb, but the severe storms are not. If you're headed out to the State Fair for tomorrow, you want to be weather alert towards the evening. Showers and thunderstorms develop again, and there could be some strong and severe ones. I'm going to break down when it's most likely and what you're going to see coming up in my Weather Authority forecast.